Hello and welcome back to Leveraging Operations in Leadership Podcast. This is where we talk about leadership, operations, and what it really takes to build teams and businesses that work without burning yourself out in the process. Today's episode is near and dear to my heart. It is about building a solid operational foundation. We're not going to talk about what tools you need to use and how hard you need to hustle and all of those things. But the foundation that allows work to happen consistently without everything dependent on you. That's what we want to get to. And I'm talking to you if you are a solo leader or if you have a team. If you are running a business or over a team, and things feel heavier than they should, if progress slows the moment you step away, or if everything still runs through you, that's not a motivation problem. It's not a talent problem. It's a foundation problem. And most leaders don't realize it until the strain starts showing up in their time, their energy, and their health. An operational foundation is the structure underneath the work. It's how decisions get made. It's how the work flows. It's how priorities stay clear. How you hire team members. It is how leaders stop being the bottleneck. And when the foundation is weak, as you continue to grow, it adds pressure. But when it's solid, growth becomes manageable. And a strong foundation is built on some core elements. When I first started teaching this, I've been in operations for a while, but when I first started teaching this to business owners, I talked about 5 core pillars: people, processes, planning, people, processes, and platforms, planning, performance, and profits. About a year ago, I started talking less about profits because profits is the outcome. If we do all of the other stuff right, the profits automatically start to come. So I didn't have to dig as deep into that. But one thing that I started talking about more is capacity. And this is extremely important when we're talking about leaders. So before we talk about the plans and the processes and platform, all of that stuff, we have to talk about capacity. And when we're thinking about capacity, this is your time, your energy, your decision-making bandwidth. If any of those are depleted, leadership becomes reactive. Here's the question that most leaders avoid, but you want to ask yourself: what is this business or position currently costing me to carry? And I'm not talking about from a financial perspective, but personally, think about it. Because when leaders are already maxed out, planning feels overwhelming, processes feel like extra work, delegation feels risky, like you don't really want to do it. And, sometimes they just avoid performance conversations. You cannot build a solid operational foundation on exhaustion. Your wellness matters. If growth requires you to give more than you have to give, there's a problem. Something's broken. That's why capacity has to be first. When I'm working with leaders, if they're already exhausted, overwhelmed, and I'm coming in and I'm saying you need to do X, Y, Z, I'm the problem. They see me as a problem because I'm adding more work, even though I know it's going to save them time, even though I know this is going to help them grow. all they see right now is the added stress, the added pressure, the added work. So capacity has to be acknowledged before you move into the other things. And when I work with people, I'm basically asking, how much do you have to give? What do you have on your plate? What are some things that we can remove immediately so that we could implement some of the other things? And it really is a trade-off or a compromise, but it's something that has to be done. If you want to reap the benefits later, there are some things that you have to do in the short term. And the answer is not piling more on your plate when you're already exhausted. Okay, so that's my thing about capacity. Now, now that we've acknowledged capacity, now we can talk about planning. Core element when we're talking about planning, this is not just about your big goals, right? Because you should be doing your yearly goals. And this isn't about these long to-do lists. It's really about direction. And most overwhelm doesn't come from too much work. It comes from unclear priorities. It comes from lack of direction, not knowing where you're going, your team not knowing where you're going. So you end up going in different directions. That is it. Here's the planning question that matters. What must move in the next 90 days and what can wait? If everything feels like a priority, nothing is clear. And unclear leaders create overloaded teams. They're overloaded and they overload their team. So planning creates boundaries and boundaries protect capacity. See how that works? All right. Now, the next thing is a part of your operational foundation is your processes and your platforms. So your processes exist to protect time and energy, and they reduce rework, they reduce interruptions, and they reduce decision fatigue. So you're not making the same decisions over and over again. And this is not about having perfection or a over documentation, right? So, some people have these large books that no one read. It's not about that. It's about answering a simple question. What work repeats and breaks down when someone else tries to do it? If you are a leader or if you have a small team and things live in people's head, whether it's your head or a team member's head, then you will always have a bottleneck. Because if you're out or if that team member is out, things stop or they don't go as smoothly. Think about simple, usable processes. That's going to create consistency. And then consistency is going to make it easier to delegate work when you have those processes. Also, when you understand your workflows from beginning to end, how something starts with how something ends, that's another thing that is added that is going to help. And then when you implement technology, the platforms that you use, automation, AI enhanced automation, whatever that looks like, then you take everything to another level. So these are the things that you want to think about when you're thinking about under the processes and the platform. That is another principle when we're talking about operational excellence. The next principle is people. Now we talk about people. And when we're talking about people, I'm talking about all of the people. You, your team, your customers, your partners. You want to make sure that you have the right people in place. You want to make sure that they understand what is expected of them. So making sure that you have roles, documented roles, where people know what is expected of them. And then also making sure that your direction, leaning on the planning aspect, making sure that your direction is clear, making sure that they understand how they play a role in that overall plan. And you want to make sure that you are crystal clear on what success looks like when it comes to your people. Specifically, when it comes to your team, you want to make sure that you have a leadership rhythm cadence where you are meeting with them and answering any questions that they may have and keeping them on the path that they need to be successful. Our job as leaders is to make sure that the people have what they need in order to be successful. That starts with clarity. Why am I here? What role do I play? How do I get this job done to the best of your ability? How do I know that I've gotten this job done to your standards, right? So I may do it to the best of my ability, but is it up to your standards? Making sure that you are clear about those things. I have also learned that this same clarity is important when it comes to our customers as well. They really want to know what is expected of me. How are you going to get me that information? All of those things matter. So when we're talking about people, you are making sure that you have the right people around you, but also that you're giving them the things that they need in order to be successful. The next pillar is performance. And this isn't about micromanaging or tracking everything, but it is about visibility. And if you can't tell whether something is working without checking it yourself, the foundation isn't solid yet. Ask this: how do we know this work is working without relying on a gut feeling? Clear outcomes reduce tension. So you want to make sure that you have clear metrics that reduce emotional feedback. It's not personal. Performance gives leaders confidence without constant oversight. So when we're talking about performance, we want to understand if the things that we've put in place is working, if the plan that we have to achieve XYZ, are we on track to achieving it? Do we need to make some changes? So it tells us a lot of information. It's not about tracking everything, but it is about tracking the right things to help you understand your business, your team, your department better. You could check metrics from a cruise. You don't have to be, right there in the same building in order to know if something is working or not. That's why I love metrics, and it is a part of performance. The other part of performance is making sure that everybody is doing what is expected of them, including yourself. So as a leader, you want to make sure that, again, you are giving the people around you the things that they need in order to be successful. Then the other thing is that, if I have a team, am I having one-on-ones? Am I clear on what direction that we need to go on? Am I clear on what the priority is for the week, the month, the quarter, whatever that looks like? Really checking yourself and then checking your team. So performance is about your performance, the performance of the team, how even your clients, are they doing the things that they need to do? Are you making the impact that you want to make with your clients? All of these things fall under performance. So making sure that you have these things in place is going to be a game changer. All right. So those are the different pillars when we're talking about operational excellence. Remember, capacity gives you space to lead. Make sure that you start with capacity. You want to make sure all of these things in place, because if you miss one, your entire foundation could literally weaken. You have leaders that they say, I'm a solo leader, so I don't need to do all of these things, but it's exactly the opposite. You really want to make sure that you have these things already in place. It is going to make it so much easier when you do start to onboard people, where you don't have to go back and now put all of this stuff in place. But just think about it from this perspective. Performance, right? Even if it's just me, I need to know how my department or my business is doing. Am I doing well? Am I on track to achieving my goals? That's if whether you have you or 10 people. You still need to have these things in place. Same thing with processes. Instead of trying to remember, oh, how did I do that? And going back and trying to figure it out and taking that time, you already have a documented process of how it needs to be done. All you have to do is pull it up and refer to that. Some things you don't do for a month. So having it is beneficial, whether it's you or 10 people. You definitely want to get started on building your operational foundation. You do not fix all 5 elements at once. Right? You start where the strain is the highest. If you are exhausted, you're going to start with your capacity, which is why I usually start out the gate with leaders with capacity. But just walk through it. If everything feels reactive, you probably need to look at planning. That means that you're just reacting to things as they come up because you haven't planned how you're going to do things going forward. If work keeps falling apart and you're making errors and nobody knows who's on first, you may need to look at your processes. If work is too slow, you may need to look at your technology. If everything depends on you, look at ownership. Who's supposed to be owning this if you have a team? And if you're unsure what's not working, look at performance. That should tell you what's working and what's not working. You don't rebuild the whole foundation at once. You reinforce what is giving you the most pressure or what is cracking, and then you start there and then you move your way around. So building a solid operational foundation isn't about becoming corporate or complicated. It's about creating a structure that allows leadership to be sustainable, that allows business growth to be sustainable. So, growth doesn't cost you your health, your clarity, or your future. This is the exact work that I do inside the leadership shift, helping leaders build capacity first, then structure what comes next. You don't need to do more. 9 times out of 10, you're probably doing way more than you should be doing. But you do need a foundation that can hold what you're building. All right. So thanks for listening. If you know a leader that could find this information useful, be sure to share. Also, take a couple of seconds. If this podcast has provided you with any insight, anything that you found helpful, take a couple of seconds to give us a review and rate our podcast. That's how you help other people hear it and we spread it. All right. I will see you in the next episode.